الحمدللہ رب العالمین والصلاة والسلام علی سید المرسلین اما بعد فاعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم الصلاة والسلام علیک یا رسول اللہ وعلی آلک واصحابک یا حبیب اللہ الصلاة والسلام علیک یا نبی اللہ وعلی آلک واصحابک یا نور اللہ. Dear viewers and listeners of Madani channel, welcome back to another amazing episode on the Silsilay Madani Qaida. And for those of you who are following the Silsilay, you will have noticed that we have finished thus far 19 lessons from the Madani Qaida. Please do take out your Madani Qaidas, or you may follow on screen. Before we get into today's lesson, please do make good intentions. As the founder of Dawud Islami, Amir Ahl Sunnah Damad Barakatuhumul Aliyah always encourages us to make good intentions before doing good actions. Make the good intentions now that I'm listening and participating in the Silsilay for the pleasure of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal, for the pleasure of the beloved Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that I will try to practice what I learn and teach others as well, inshallah Azza wa Jal. Alhamdulillah Azza wa Jal, there are many benefits and blessings for reciting Durood Pak, Salawat, or salutations upon the most beloved Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. As is mentioned in a beautiful summary of a narration, that the person who recites Durood or Salat or salutations 1,000 times daily upon the beloved Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that person will not die until they see their place in Jannah. Subhanallah. Sallu ala الحبيب sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Dear viewers and listeners of Madani channel, I hope that your Madani Qaidas are out. Please do turn to page 41, lesson number 20, where there are different kinds of rules. And this will take us right to page 43. And these rules we will cover. We must learn these rules, by heart them, memorize them, understand them, and practice upon them, implement them when we are reciting the glorious Quran, in Salah or out of Salah, inshallah Azza wa Jal. If we have a look at the first Madani point, Idhar-e Mutlaq, what does this mean? Yes, for some of us it will be difficult, that first time we are hearing or listening to these terms, but the more we revise, remember repetition is part of learning, the more we revise and get used to these terms and understand them, it will become easy and simple for us, inshallah Azza wa Jal. So, Idhar-e Mutlaq means that in the following four words, the following four examples are there, that in these four examples or these four words, a Yarmaloon letter is present after a Noon Sakin in the same word. Do you remember Yarmaloon? We had covered in a previous episode. If you do, Alhamdulillah Azza wa Jal. If you don't remember, then please do revise, inshallah Azza wa Jal. So if a Yarmaloon letter is present after a Noon Sakin in the same word, like in the following four examples, then Idgham will not be done in these cases, but Idhar-e Mutlaq will be done. And therefore no Ghunna will take place in these four words or these four examples. Do you remember Ghunna? It means a nasal sound or nasalization. That sound must come from the nose area, the nasal area, and we must pull or stretch the sound up to one alif. So in these four examples, there will not be any ghunna. Those examples are as follows. You can follow in your Madani Qaidas or on screen. The first example, dunya. We can see the Noon Sakin and we can see the Ya, which is part of the Yarmaloon, which appears after the Noon Sakin, but we are not going to do Ghunna and say dunya. This will be incorrect. So dunya. Alright? The following example, bunyanun. Bunyanun. Again, we are not pulling that Noon Sakin. The third example, swinwanun. Swinwanun. And the last example, qinwanun. Qinwanun. As you can see here, in all examples, the Noon Sakin we are not pulling. We are not doing Ghunna, because izhar mutlaq is taking place. Moving to the second Madani point, sakta. What is sakta? This means to stop the sound for a moment and then continue. To stop, to hold your breath whilst you are reading. When you see this, then to hold your breath, to stop the sound and then continue reading ahead whilst holding the breath. This is called sakta. Alright? So the sound should stop whilst holding the breath. Sakta is wajib, which means essential, compulsory, in the following 4 cases. The examples are going to follow now. Whenever you see these 4 examples in the glorious Quran, it is wajib, it is compulsory to do sakta. And we will show how this is done practically in a moment, inshallah azza wa jal. So to do sakta is wajib in the following 4 cases. And the rule of sakta is that the mutaharrik, do you remember mutaharrik? The letter which has a haraka. What is haraka? Fatha, dhamma or kasra. Or fathatain, dhammatain, kasratain, any of the vertical harakat. Whenever that sign or symbol is on the letter, that letter is called a mutaharrik. So the rule of sakta is that the mutaharrik will be read as a sakin, and the double fatha will be changed to an alif and will be read accordingly. What does this mean? Please do turn to page 42 or follow on screen. We can see the 4 examples that are there, starting from the right of the page. Alright? If we look, alhamdulillah azza wa jal, the references of the surahs with the verse numbers are also included. So this makes it much easier for us. If you want, we can go and open the glorious Quran and we will find these examples there. Alright? Now, if you look, there's in this sentence or in this example, in each example, we can see the word sakta. The seen, kaf, ta and ha. That is sakta. Right? And it's written in a different kind of font or style compared to the other letters of the word. So this we can identify that, okay, sakta is written here. What rule applies? Go over the definition of these terms, understand them and implement them. Now we are going to implement the meaning of sakta. Right? Listen carefully. وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ. Understand the point. We had mentioned that you hold your breath for a moment and then continue. We don't stop completely. وَقِيلَ مَنْ and breathe raqin. That will be incorrect. We must hold the breath for a moment and then continue. وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ. Without breaking the breath, we hold the breath and then continue reciting to complete that verse or that ayah. Right? Very simple. This is sakta. And in these 4 examples, it is compulsory, it is wajib to implement sakta over here. Right? On to the next example. Kalla bal rana. Kalla bal rana. So you can hear that we are holding our breath and then we are continuing. This is the example, or this is how we apply this rule of sakta. Mim marqadina hadha. Mim marqadina hadha. Another example, that we are holding the breath. Mim marqadina. Hold the breath. Hadha, and then continue without breaking the breath. Iwajan qayyiman. Iwajan qayyiman. Okay, alhamdulillah azza wa jal, a very simple rule. Sakta is showing us that this is how we must apply And if we practice, inshallah azza wa jal, it becomes easy for us. Sallu ala الحبيب sallallahu ta'ala ala محمد sallallahu alayhi wasallam. On to the next Madani point, which is the first Madani point on page 42 of your Madani Qaidas. We can see the letter Sad with a little scene above it. What does this mean? When you see this in the Holy Quran, then there are 4 words which contain the letter Sad, right? And it has a thin or a tiny scene is also written above the Sad, as you can see in the example. Have a look in your Madani Qaidas or on screen. The Sad is in a bigger font or a bigger size, and the scene is in a smaller size, right? So there are 4 places in the Quran that you will, or 4 words which contain the letter Sad with the tiny scene, and these words are pronounced in the following way. Keep this in mind, right? You can see 4 examples there at the bottom, and each example has an explanation. So this is necessary for us to memorize and to understand, so that we can correctly apply this rule when we find it in the Holy Quran. If we look at in case number 1 or example number 1 and number 2, then we must only pronounce the Seen and not the Sad. In example number 3, it is allowed to pronounce either Sad or Seen. And in example number 4, we must only pronounce the Sad and not the Seen. Okay? When you read in the Holy Quran, if you get confused or you don't remember, open your Madani Qaidas, not a problem. Alhamdulillah azza wa jal, Dawud Islami has made it so much easier for us that if you turn to the back of your Madani Qaidas, you will find the table of contents, and it will be easy for you to locate which rule you are looking for, which law you are looking for as well. Alright? So these 4 examples, as I mentioned in example number 1, number 2, we must only pronounce the Seen. Let's look at the example. In examples number 1 and number 2, we must only pronounce the Seen. Now let's have a look at those examples, right? Yabsutu. Yabsutu. Okay. Now we are not saying Yabsutu. The Sad we know is part of which letters? The Huruf Musta'aliyah. Those 7 letters, whenever you find them, they must always be pronounced with a thick tone and a full mouth. So here there's a Sad, but as we mentioned, the rule is, in this case, we must pronounce the Seen. Yabsutu. Keep in mind all the other rules and laws. What other rule is applying here? Look at the Ba. Ba is part of the Qalqala letters. Ba has a Sakin or a Jazm, and therefore that slight echoing or bouncing sound must be made. Yab, not too much. Yabsutu. Again, if you don't remember, must I pronounce the Seen or must I pronounce the Sad, then refer to your Madani Qaidas, inshallah azza wa jal. On to the second example. Bastatan. Bastatan. Can you hear? We are not pronouncing the Sad. Bastatan. So, as you can see in this third example, that we have a choice of whether to pronounce the Seen or the Sad. Now, let us pronounce with the example of the Seen first, inshallah azza wa jal. Am humul musaytiruna. Am humul musaytiruna. Am humul musaytiruna. And now the example of the Sad. Am humul musaytiruna. Am humul musaytiruna. Okay, the first example musaytiruna, and the second musaytiruna. Right, so make sure that whichever your choice is, whether to pronounce with the Seen or the Sad, that you differentiate between those 2 letters, inshallah azza wa jal. Because these are qareeb as-sawt, that we must always keep those letters in mind, which sound somewhat similar, but they are different. If we look at the 4th example, and as we mentioned, in this example we must always pronounce the Sad and not the Seen. although we will see the seen written there. Alright, so we will pronounce in this manner. بِمُسَيْطِرٍ بِمُسَيْطِرٍ. Right, sword as we know is part of the huruf musta'aliyah, and therefore that thick tone, that full mouth must be made. بِمُسَيْطِرٍ. Alright, so these are the examples of when we see the sword and the seen. Alright, when we look at the next Madani point, tasheel. Tasheel means to make soft or to soften. Okay, but what are we talking about here? If you look into your Madani Qaidas or on screen, it means to pronounce the second Hamza in a soft tone or with a soft tone. In the glorious Quran, there is only one place or one word where tasheel is wajib. Wajib, you know, means compulsory, essential and necessary. Inshallah ta'ala, that example we will come to in a moment, which is located on page 43 above the page. Before we go into the example of tasheel, the next Madani point is imala. Imala means to incline the sound of the fatha, the zabr or the fatha, to make the sound into or towards a kasra, to make the sound of the zabr into the sound of a zair, to make the sound of the fatha towards the sound of the kasra, and the sound of the alif towards ya is called imala. The ra of imala is pronounced as re and not ri. The example we will come to in a moment, right? And we are advised here in the next Madani point to spell out the word or this example of imala. The example you can see in your Madani Qaidas or you can follow on screen. Meem, Jeem, Fatha, Majj. Ra of imala, Re. Majj, Re. Okay? And Ha, Alif, Fatha, Ha. Majj, Re, Ha. That example is on the next page as well. Before we repeat that example, let's move to the next Madani point, the last Madani point at the bottom of page 42. In this part of the Quranic verse, we will not pronounce the alif which is found before the lam and after the lam as well. We will pronounce the lam with a kasra. Understand? Very simple. We see an alif before and after the lam, so those two alifs will remain silent. We will not pronounce it, but the lam we will pronounce with a kasra. Okay, let's go on to the examples of tasheel and imala. Tasheel, as you can see, the first example of the first block, as we mentioned, that second hamza, we will soften the tone. Okay? A'jamiyyun wa arabiyyun. The first letter is a hamza, the next letter is a hamza, and the third is an ayn. Now we know that these letters hamza and ayn are qareeb as-sawt. They sound somewhat similar, but they are different. Keep in mind the makharij of each letter as well. This hamza that you can see in your Madani Qaidas or on screen, which is highlighted in blue, this is an example of tasheel, and here it is necessary for us, it is wajib here to soften the tone of this hamza. One more time, let us repeat. A'jamiyyun wa arabiyyun. Alright, so be careful that we don't confuse the sounds of the hamza and the ayn. The next two examples are of imala, and as we had spelled out this word a few minutes ago, we will pronounce as majreha. Although the ra, which you can see highlighted in green, has a vertical kasra, you can see that sign or that symbol below the ra, we will not say majriha. Majriha is absolutely incorrect. Majriha will be incorrect. Here imala is taking place. We must apply the rule of imala, and therefore we will say, and this place is the only place with this example you will find in the whole Quran. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. Therefore we will pronounce as Majreha. Majreha. Right? The details of why or how this came about, the explanation we can find in more detailed information about tajweed and makharij and these rules and laws, inshallah Azza wa Jal. So this example is Majreha. In the next example of imala, as we mentioned, the alif before and after the lam will not be pronounced, and the lam, which you can see, which is highlighted in red, will be pronounced with a kasrah. Bi'sal ismul fusuq. So you can understand how we are pronouncing this. Bi'sa lismul. Lismul. Those two alifs before and after are silent. Bi'sa lismul. Okay. Surah Al-Hujurat verse 11. This is where you can find this example in the Holy Quran. One more time, these three examples, starting from the first one, Tasheel. A'jamiyyun wa arabiyyun. On to the next example of imala. Majreha. Bi'sal ismul fusuq. Alright, dear viewers and listeners of Madani channel, alhamdulillah Azza wa Jal, we have completed lesson number 20, and this had some rules and laws which are necessary for us to learn, to know, to understand, so that we can implement and apply them when we are reciting the glorious Quran. Today we have covered very simple terms. For many it may be difficult because it's the first time that we are listening to these terms, we are looking at these terms. If we repeat, if we revise, inshallah Azza wa Jal, they will become familiar to us. It will become simple and easy, and it will become easier for us to apply it when we are reciting the glorious Quran. Go over this, please. Take out those 5 minutes or 12 minutes minimum and revise this lesson. Revise idhar mutlaq with the examples. Revise the sakta. Revise the swad with the seen, tasheel, imala. These few examples and terms, revise them inshallah Azza wa Jal, and it will become easier for us. Please also do enroll in Madrasatul Madina near you. Madrasatul Madina is available for kids, for children, for adults, Islamic brothers, Islamic sisters separately. Madrasatul Madina online is also available, and join the beautiful Madani movement of Dawud Islami, which is actively promoting the Quran and Sunnah in more than 100 different departments across the globe. Subhanallah Azza wa Jal. You join with good intentions and you will see productivity, you will see positivity in your life, inshallah Azza wa Jal. Do join us next time on this wonderful Silsilay Madani Qaida. Salوا ala الحبيب صلى الله تعال على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.